So if the goal of spirituality is to see through the illusory nature of the sense of self, and the goal of self-actualization is to develop a healthy self, they might not seem compatible. So in this video, we're going to look at exactly that. Are spirituality and self-actualization compatible? Spoiler alert, they are compatible, but we'll run through some theory and strategies put forward by advanced practitioners later on in the video to help you optimize this process. So let's get geeky here, guys. What is self-actualization in the first place? Well, I'm going to quote our boy Maslow on this one, who says, "What a man can be, he must be. This need we may call self-actualization." Which basically means that self-actualization is concerned with maximizing one's capacity in certain domains in life. You could be a painter, you could be a CEO of a company, you could be a used car salesman. But the key thing about self-actualization is it's quite different to personal development in that it's more concerned about not so much status, but it's more concerned about just maximizing one's potential in this human life. But as a 2017 study rightly points out, however, many of the behaviors involved with pursuing one's full potential are linked to status, both directly and indirectly. So when self-actualizing, there may be subtle tendencies to want to self-improve for status, rather than seeking internal happiness without conditions that spirituality promotes, which brings us to the definition of spirituality. The deepest goal of spirituality is freedom from the illusion of self. So given we know spirituality is about perceiving through the illusory self, and there will likely be subtle tendencies to reify the self when self-actualizing, what practical means can we take to stop this from happening and then prevent our own suffering? I do have some intuition that I want to shine on this topic, and I also reached out specifically with this question to the Awakening to Reality subreddit, which has a huge plethora of advanced, really incredible teachers and practitioners with deep insights. So the remainder of this video is going to discuss my own take on it, as well as sort of insights from that discussion thread. Okay, now that we're out here in the beautiful forest of Mount Tibrogargan, I just want to run through why the whole question of whether or not spirituality and self-actualization, whether or not they're compatible, is sort of an arbitrary question when we realize that the self never actually really existed in the first place. It's just a mental construct that we layer onto our experience. So what we can do is we can just pick any object in our experience. I'm going to look at this tree. And I'm gonna ask the question, is that me? Is that tree me? Is that who I am? And the obvious question is like, bro, it's a tree. No, that's not me, that's not self. Okay, so then what we can do is we can take it a little bit closer. We can get a little bit more intimate with it. Now, if I bring it to my body and I say, am I my hand? Well, no, because if I can look at it, that's not me, that's not self. If I were to lose my hand, there would still be someone having an experience right now. Well, let's take it even further, okay? So what if I were to say, I am a sensation in my body? Well, okay. But if you were the sensation in your body, and that's continuously changing, and there's still an experience behind that, how could you be that? And you can take it even further than that. Am I my thoughts? Well, if I look at that, I can observe that too. And that's constantly changing, but there's still an experience going on behind it. So the whole notion of the self, this dualism that we layer on top of things, is really just a construct. There's no separate self. And when we look at the flow of events, we can see that we're not in control of like a sensation arising in the body. It just happens. A thought just happens. We don't think up our next thought. If you pay attention, it just happens. We still can't argue with the fact that, yeah, okay, I get that, but I still feel like I'm in a contracted state sometimes. I still feel like I'm dualistic. So therefore, it's not so much what we're doing with whatever we're doing in life, whether we're self-actualizing, whether we're watching TV, but it's more so the quality of our attention dedicated to that task. So with that out of the way, let's now look at 3 practical ways on how we can actually bring a very skillful attention when self-actualizing as to not overlook that the self was non-existent. Let's get into it. So the very first thing that we can do is the concept of Wu Wei, of actionless action, where we become so immersed in the activity that we are doing that we almost become the activity itself. So if I'm filming this video, I'm talking fully and completely with my attention 100% dedicated to one sense object, so much so that the whole sense of self drops away and I become the act of doing, of speaking into this camera right now. Or alternatively, if we're writing, we're paying 100% attention to the writing process, zapping out everything from our experience that might potentially exacerbate and illuminate the sense of self. This is very akin to flow state. And if you want to check out a really good video I did on that, on how to sort of work productively, meaningful productivity, check out my video I did on how to focus like a Zen master, and that might help you put some of these principles into practice. But the key thing here is we get so heavily involved with whatever task that we're doing with 100% full exertion of what they call in Zen, as opposed to like 50% off getting lost in thought, another 30% thinking about a Facebook post, and then the rest of 20% of our attention on the task. And in doing so, we don't reify the sense of self. And you can also imagine this to be an incredibly potent skill for self-actualization because we're so focused on what we do. We're like a Zen monk, just fully in the task, and I just think of like a samurai just doing his morning ritual and just in such a holy sort of sacred way. I like to sort of have that as the mental image that the way that I approach what I'm doing. At least I try to, the best I can. I'm by no means perfect. My friends, just a quick intermission. If you're liking the video, make sure to like the video because it helps me out in the algorithm so more people can see this content and also helps my channel grow as well. Thank you so much. Let's continue. The second thing that we can do is to actively let go of gain and loss. Now this one's quite simple and I'm not going to go into too much depth here. So letting go of all expectations of gain, like status, or loss, like the stock market dropping down and losing an investment, set the intention to let go of gain and loss as best that we can, fully and completely in the task that we're doing. So we're just immersed in the present moment, what's real for us right now. We're not lost fabricating stories about how good we're going to be when we finish this task, or how poor we're going to be when this financial stock market crashes and we lose all our investments. It's just what's real for us right now in the present moment. And the third thing is, this is more so my take on things, but I really think it's important to take time away, to step out from our busy lives and to take time to find solitude, to do reflection. When we couple our spiritual practice with self-actualization, we constantly are developing, right? We're constantly gaining insight into our experience. And the more that we can sort of perhaps quarterly in a year, so every 3 months, go out to a retreat center and just take time to sit down and journal about where we're at with our experiences and what's important in our lives and where we're going, and is it congruent with what we're sort of experiencing spiritually? Does it make sense to keep going down the path that I'm going on? That helps to let go of egoic tendencies, where previously we might be running on full bore down one path toward becoming the CEO of a company. Maybe if we take time out from what we're doing to just reflect, is this what I actually want to be doing now that I have all of these insights that have been accruing? So taking time to reflect on our lives, on what we're trying to self-actualize toward, and using our spiritual insight to sort of work complementary to one another, up and up and up toward the reduction of suffering. I think going on a retreat or just a couple of days in solitude, it can go a really long way, right? Let me know in the comments if you're going to apply any of these, guys. Are you going to go on a retreat? Are you going to try letting go of gain and loss? Or are you going to really try and get involved with the principle of Wu Wei, of full immersion into the task that we're doing? Let me know in the comments. I'd be really curious to know. And make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want more like this. But remember, guys, you're seen and you're important. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Adios, my friends.